Hey guys, welcome back. I wanted to get on a live video quick here and do a little bit of an update on the Mach 1. It's been a while since I did anything live, or I haven't really done much on videos lately. I've been too busy trying to accumulate parts and such for this car and try to get this thing done because I had a little bit of time. And of course, as soon as I started, uh, you know, things got crazy again, and I had no time to really stay with the car. So, just the way things work in this business. Been a long day. Uh, probably going to get out of here in a few minutes, but I did want to update everybody on the car. I've been having people ask me questions, and the owner himself was down here during the week. Took a look at some of the stuff that I pulled out of this thing, and he was pretty much beside himself, seeing what was done to the vehicle years back. So I'll flip the camera around and we'll take a look at some of the stuff that's going on with this thing, and you guys can judge for yourself. All right, so first of all, the old clutch. Hey James, how are you, sir? This is the old clutch assembly and pressure plate and all that stuff, and this is all outdated crap, but it was all wrecked. This was the custom trans mount, cross member rather, not mount, that was made for the car back in the day out of 1/8" angle iron. Gotta love it. This is just a disaster all around, man. There's nothing good. Nothing good. I got the Z bar sitting here. All right, so got a bunch of crap basically. This place looks like a bomb hit it because of this car, but I have to get it done, and I really don't have time to start messing around cleaning up stuff right now. I need to get this thing together and running, and just verify everything is good with it. And it feels like that's never going to happen, but we're trying. The exhaust system on the car. This is actually an extra manifold that he brought, but we're not going to be using that. I fixed one that was cracked. I welded it and refinished it. Refinished both of them, put them back on the car. These are the headers that came off. As you can see from the black spots there, you can see the leaks. 3 out of 4 tubes on each side were leaking. Old gaskets. So this thing all around was a disaster. You can see the headers where they were trying to make them fit, and didn't work out too well. This here actually was a big problem. This part here, you can actually see the clean spot. That is where the clutch linkage was riding, and it was never fully disengaging the clutch. It was in the car, so all this stuff is just garbage. It's going to be scrapped. Drive shaft, we got new U-joints in the drive shaft for them. There's the new H-pipe sitting here that I just mocked up a little while ago to make sure it fits. The old scatter shield that they put on with all the wrong parts for this vehicle, nothing fit right, obviously. Here's the old exhaust system. More crap, basically. Just everything mismatched and just junk, man, all around. So I cut this off. We got a new exhaust system sitting over yonder. H-pipe. This is all factory style stuff, and I'll show you if I can what I got going on. So far, well, the last day and a half, I basically spent pulling out the booster and the master and installing this bracket, okay, with this cable. So what we did was we converted this to a cable for the clutch, which is going to be a really nice setup once it's finished. It has a double adjustment on it, one up here at the firewall, and it has an adjustment obviously down at the clutch fork itself, which is a benefit to the guy. So that should work out good. Aside from that, I had to basically clean the inside of the car with a steam cleaner, because I actually started working on this thing on Saturday and it made me sick. I was sick as a dog for 3 days because I believe there's mold in the car from sitting. So I had cleaned this thing out as best I could with the steam machine, and there's still stuff falling down, as you can see in the back there from, you know, working on it. But I just got everything back together underneath here. Got the pedal assemblies back in. This car has absolutely kicked my ass, guys, and let me tell you, I'm not. I was not enthusiastic about taking this job on because I knew the commitment it was going to take to try to get this car back on the road. This car is a disaster. Plain and simple. The car, what needs to be done with this vehicle is what needed to be done from the beginning is this car needs to be stripped completely to the bone, and everything that's broken needs to be fixed or replaced, and then the car needs to be put back together piece by piece with mostly new parts and get it back on the road. Hey guys, glad you guys could join in. Yeah, he really wants this car back on the road, man. I am a bad businessman because I tried to tell him from the pretty much from the onset. I mean, right after I got the car running and started looking into it, you know, a little deeper, I started to explain to him this car needs to be either gone or needs to be restored. There's no halfway here. So I'm not a restoration shop. I don't want to be one. These are not projects that I want to be involved in. It's just the guy hit home with me. I know him a long time, and I know what it's like to lose a car that you have a lot invested in. Been there, and it bothers me still to this day. So I know where he was coming from with that stuff. It sucks. He didn't want to lose the car, so I explained to him this is going to be expensive. It's going to be a large endeavor, and I don't know what kind of can of worms we're opening once we once we start going deeper into it. But this thing, let me tell you, this thing kicked my ass for 2 days, just putting this crap together. And what I realized when I took it apart is that there was no brake light switch in the vehicle. I found this, which is the pigtail for the brake lights on these cars. The brake light switch would be mounted. I don't know if I could show you guys on camera. I don't even know if you care, to be honest, but I'll try to crawl back under here one more time. I don't know if you could even see it, but it's up on the pedal where the booster sits, where the rod for the booster goes. That is where the brake light switch is supposed to be. When I took it apart, there was no switch in the vehicle. So I had to order a switch for it today. I'm going to get that in tomorrow and put it together, crawl back under there one more time, pull it apart, and put the switch in, make sure the lights work. But excuse me, overall, that's the least of his problems. I'm trying to think here because there's just so much stuff going on with this car. I feel like every time I take something apart on here, I start doing a project on the car, starting to fix one thing, I find 3 things wrong with it. So it keeps running into more and more money. And I mean, he does understand, but it's just a matter that, you know, it's consuming all of my time at this point, and to the point where, like, I can't even, every time I have a car in here that I'm checking or doing anything on, and I want to turn the camera on, I really can't even get a video for you guys most of the time with it nowadays because of this thing. I'm trying to go through a diag and a repair or whatever I have to do, and then jump back on this because this thing really needs to get out of my face, man. It's been here too long, and it's just a mess. You know what I mean? It's just it's taking up a spot, and the progress is extremely slow. I'll show you guys something else that you might like. Let me bring this over here in the light. You can see this is the old block plate. Okay, that's the hole for the starter over here. This would be mounted up against the engine. The trans would be mounted to here. Okay, this is where the flywheel was rubbing through the plate. Okay, that's what was on here. That's just another, just another mess. Basically, another part that's destroyed and bent up now and no good. So it's a little bit of everything. We've tried the best we can to, he wants to get the car roadworthy. So we've been trying our best to do the things that it's absolutely necessary to do to get it roadworthy. Unfortunately, there's a lot more to it than than just a couple of items. Like I said, if you look at the work that was done, no, it was actually the wrong flywheel, not bent. They had the wrong flywheel in it. Dude, I could, if I went through a list of everything like on the car, I'd probably be here for 5 hours, just telling you what we found and what we had, and just stupidity, man, all around. This thing here, there's just too much to list. But I want to try to keep updates on the videos of the car, because I did start with a video on the car, and I kind of want to see it through with this thing, because I have a lot of time invested. And even if a lot of you guys aren't really interested in this car and nobody watches it, I don't care. The customer is enjoying the videos. He's enjoying seeing the progress and seeing the changes in the car. And to me, that means a lot, because like I said, I got a lot invested in it too. You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty cool. He could see, and he could always watch it again and see what was done to the car. And I just think it's neat. But I'll show you the difference here. You saw that trans cross member that was custom built. This is the cross member that's going in the car. All right. And if any of you guys out there have classics or anything, or whatever, you need some work, you need some good items, check this company out, Modern Driveline. This is where I bought a lot of the stuff for the trans conversion. They have really high quality parts, the cable, all that stuff. So, it's pretty cool, man. They got some cool stuff. I got the new piece here as well for the steering ram, which the old one, I don't know if you guys know or not, but it actually broke off the vehicle because they didn't assemble it right. So I'm going to weld this on the car, because everything is broke where it would mount, and I'm going to reinforce it here with another piece of steel, and that should be fine. I've done them before. I'll show you the trans too. We pulled the trans out of it, and I'm sure some of you guys know this is not a 4-speed that would have been original in the car. This is actually a TK 3550, which is a Tremec transmission, and it's a 5-speed. The new shifter, this is from Modern Driveline. This is designed specifically for these conversions, because the shifter has to sit back about an inch and a half, which this is what this is for. Plus the shifter feels a hell of a lot better than the stock crap that I pulled out of it. So we cleaned the trans up and gave it a coat of paint, and we got that ready to go back in the car now. I'm not going to lift it back up, because underneath you probably run if you see what's underneath this thing right now. It's a mess. Well, let me see. I don't know how much you guys can really see under there, but everything's hanging. The steering ram, everything's hanging on it. I got the idler arm off, disconnected. That was all to do the work that I had to do on getting the headers out and getting the manifolds in. Absolute ton of work on this thing, man. These old cars are easy, but let me tell you, they're not easy. I'll show you. I want to grab a light. I'll show you I'll see if I can get a shot down there of the manifolds. You can see them partially. They came out pretty nice. I think they look very much original. As far as the way they would have come from the factory, they finished really nice. Actually, you get a good view here of at least part of that one. So they came out pretty nice, I think. He'll be happy, or he was happy actually, when he saw them on the floor. He's going to be happier with them on the car. The other thing we had to do with this car, stock manifold, Gerald, absolutely. Those headers are junk. Headers for this engine. This is a 351 Cleveland, and these engines on these cars are very tight in these compartments because of this here. These strut towers, these shock towers, the way they're designed, there's no room. So on some of these cars, like the Boss cars, the Boss 429 specifically, these were actually changed out on the car in the factory and moved in or outboard, because there was no room for the engine. And they do make a conversion for these cars where you can get rid of that altogether. There's a delete kit. You put a different suspension in it, which would be like a coilover setup, and that would negate all this crap. It would get rid of all that steering junk that's in here. It would put a rack and pinion in it, take a lot of weight out of the front end, and it would also get the car to handle and sit better. So that's an expensive endeavor as well. It's probably about a $5,000 or $6,000 modification. But I told them if you're going to restore the car at some point, that's something you should absolutely do while in the restoration process. Get rid of all this junk and put those parts on it, and you'll be a lot happier. But that's, if any time that's ever going to happen, it's going to be way down the road. So right now, yeah, stock manifolds, because stock manifolds on this car are going to actually outperform the headers that were on here, believe it or not. Those stock manifold ports are enormous, and they're just going to flow so much better than these junk headers that were on here. I don't know if I could really show you. Let me try to show you guys what I'm talking about. And I do have one of the stock manifolds here, even though it's all rusted. If you look at these ports, and then try to, I don't know if the camera's going to really pick it up, but if you look at where the black soot is around here, not the leak part, but just the soot, that's where the port is on the head. Now, that's smaller. These ports are far smaller than the ports that are on this header, if that makes sense. So these manifolds are not going to leak. They're not going to be banged up like these headers are. They're going to outperform these headers 100%. Now, if you were to go out and buy headers, if you wanted to do headers for this car the right way, my recommendation would be a company like Cook's. I've used Cook's a lot in the past. They're fantastic to deal with, and yeah, they're going to be absolutely, bar none, 100 times better than the stock manifolds. But you're going to pay $3,000 for those headers. The other problem with them is that for this particular car, these 351 Cleveland motors with these Mustangs, they need the vehicle. You have to send the vehicle to them, and they will custom make the header around the car. But that's the right way to do it. That's why there's a right way and a wrong way. The right way is expensive. Is it worth putting $3,000 worth of headers on this car? Hell no. The guy, I explained to him, in my opinion, if you want to enjoy this car at all, instead of having it sit for another 20 years, you need to do something to get the car drivable. Get it where you can take it out and you could actually enjoy it, and you don't have to sit here, looking at the car sitting in the garage. You can actually drive it. So in order to do that, the best way to do it is to put the stock stuff back, as much of it as possible, retain the 5-speed trans, that's fine. But you have to make this car drivable and safe. And, obviously it wasn't any of those things when it came in here. So we're getting a step closer every, month, something, whatever. We're getting there. It's taking time. But, we have to wait for parts. Need to breathe. Yeah, no kidding, man. Yeah, you need to feed this thing, you know what I mean? And it needs to eat and it needs to crap. So basically that's it. I mean, if it can't do one of those things, it's not going to run right, Gerald. So I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You're into the hot rod stuff, so I mean, it's like any other engine. It's got to be able to do both. So this thing will run better, 100%. It's got the exhaust that's going on here are 2.25-inch pipes, 2.25-inch mufflers, with a little bit of performance to them. They have a little bit of higher flow, whatever, but the car is going to run probably night and day compared to how it ran before. Providing that there is no damage to this engine. That's the only thing we don't know 100%, because the engine was not pulled and not pulled apart. Yeah, man, I know. I got to get on one of those TV shows, man, and then I could do a whole car in a half hour. I'll be impressed with myself then. This stuff is time consuming, man, especially when you're one guy working on it. Yeah, Bill, you're 100% right with that too. You're a drag racer, man. These were actually terrible designs, I think, in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong, the engine itself was a good engine. The Cleveland was basically a bulletproof motor, but they don't they're expensive to fix. They're expensive to build. That's why basically Ford did away with them years ago. They're too expensive. When they're running right and they're good to go, they're fantastic engines though. This thing this thing is just, I'm hoping the engine's good though. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I had to do a rear main seal in it. The seal was all dried out. I pulled the trans, and, it was leaking. I was like, got to do it. It's apart now. It's time to do it. So we changed it, and I found a lot of debris inside the oil pan, and I was really not happy at all for a motor that has 100 miles on it. There was a ton of debris in there. So I don't know the history enough to know what happened. I cleaned everything out. The engine did not make noise. Nothing that I noticed, at least, with all the exhaust leaks and all the other crap. But I didn't notice any noise. I didn't notice anything that was damning to the motor. But, I did explain to him, we know nothing at this point with this car because we can't road test it. We have, there's no way I could take this car and drive it down the road at this point. So you don't know what kind of can of worms it's going to be. Yeah, I know, man. But see, again, Gerald, it's a perfect world, man. It doesn't work that way for us. The right way to do it is the car needs to be stripped. The engine needs to come out, needs to get taken apart, needs to be run through, check all the clearances, check everything, make sure there's no damage to anything. That's the right way to do everything. But, money is a problem at this, with this thing, and we're just trying to get it roadworthy. You know what I mean? If the engine explodes on it, I'm going to be upset, but I'm not going to be super surprised either because I don't know what to expect with it. We have no idea. It's got to be tried. We have to get the car going, and we have to get the car drivable, and then we have to see what happens. I mean, I did heat cycle this engine twice since we've had it here. I had it running, up to temperature a couple times. It never overheated. I never saw any issues with anything, oil pressure, no noises. But it is what it is. Hey, Chris, but there's a lot here to be done. Like I said, there's a ton of things that have to be done here, and the right way to do a car like this is to completely start over. The last time it was started, this car has not run in 23 or 24 years, Gerald. I got it started down here last year when he first brought it. The problem, I don't know if you saw the video or not. I'll tell you though, the problem with the car stalling back in the day and not running is that when they put one of the fuel lines on it, one of the rubber lines, they crushed it between the emergency brake cable and the body of the car. So there was a fuel delivery issue with the car that caused it to sit for all these years. But in hindsight, the guy actually thinks now that it was a great thing that it happened because he didn't know about all the dangers underneath this car, the steering that broke off the chassis, just things that are, like I said, that are uncalled for. You know what I mean? Just really, really dangerous stuff. It's not. It's serious stuff. The car could have gotten somebody killed, but that's why we're trying to rectify those things at this point. Get it where it's safe. I don't know. I mean, we're trying, like I said, but this car is a huge endeavor, man, and it's not something I really want to do. I used to do a lot of performance work. It was mostly on the later model Mustangs, and I enjoyed doing that stuff because most of it was kind of. Guys wanted bolt-ons and they wanted a tune and they, whatever. That was pretty simple stuff for the most part. But this kind of stuff is more restoration oriented than it is performance. This is getting the car back to where it's, where it should be. The other thing too is the car has garbage in the rear. It's got 300 gears in it. The car's not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Even if it was running 100%, it's still not going to have any kind of leverage, no torque. With that kind of gear ratio in it, this thing needs a 410 gear in it to get its ass up and going. So, there's a lot to be done here, man. It needs a gear. It needs gears. The rear's leaking anyway. The seals or everything are leaking on it. It's got to come apart. So, 300 to 1. Yeah, 300 to 1. That's it. They're just garbage. It is a posi, but it's there's no real ratio in it. You know what I mean? There's nothing, no steep gear in it. So it needs a 410. With that 5-speed trans, with the gearing in the 5-speed trans, it'll wake it up tremendously. The car will feel like you put a different engine in it. But that would do you no good anyway, unless the car is safe. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's cruise gears, man. You probably do 150 miles an hour with it, but what fun is that? I want to get up to 150 and 2 blocks, not 3 miles. So yeah, but like I said, it's a big endeavor. There's everything on the car really needs to be done right and over. So the stuff that we're doing, I'm confident it's going to work out well. I'm happy with the clutch setup. I'm happy with everything from Modern Driveline that I bought. I'm very happy with this cable assembly, even though it is a pain in the ass to put in the car. And here I'll show you guys. It is a 9-inch, absolutely. Yes, it is. So you can change the center section out, which is the nice part about it. Here, this was the. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Maybe you are, Gerald. These old time cars had this clutch assist spring on it, on the clutch pedal. And you can see by the size of the spring in my hand, this thing is not a toy, it's not a joke. I went under there and looked at it, and I was like, oh, okay. It's an over-centering spring, so what it does is as you push down on the pedal, this thing actually helps you to get the pedal down to the floor, because the clutches were so stiff back then. This would help you to... okay, you do know, right? Yeah, so I've read things about these things where they've got a mechanic and his hand got broken and shattered because of one of these springs. So I have never actually taken one of these out before, and I decided that I was not going to stick my head under there while I was taking it apart, because I was not going to get caught unexpected and not be able to run anywhere because I'm trapped under a dashboard. So what I did was I released the clip that holds the pedal assembly in, and I got a large pair of pliers to grab the pedal with, and I kind of worked the pedal back and forth, and I kept working it back and forth and sideways until this thing popped. And when it was safe, that was it. I pulled it out and moved on with my business of getting this other assembly back in. I wanted to film doing the clutch part, but honestly, I just didn't have I couldn't. It was too much. It was too much to try to film. This is actually the bracket. This is a bigger pain in the ass than anything else. This bracket sits above on the vehicle, and this is where the top of the spring would actually sit in. So this thing is nasty. I mean, really, really nasty. It sits kind of like that. So yeah, that that bracket had to come out because the the cable was when it was in place where it had to be was actually hitting the bolt that held that freaking bracket in. So I had to go back under there and take it all back apart and get that out to make myself clearance for the cable. But overall, I think that the cable is going to be a huge improvement. It now has a diaphragm style clutch in it, no more of that crap with those fingers on it, and it's going to be a smoother feel with the clutch all around, you know what I mean, with all the components. So I think it should end up really well for him once the car's finished. I think he's going to be happy with it. It's got to feel a hell of a lot better. And the bonus is that the clutch will actually engage and disengage now, unlike before. So maybe the clutch will last more than 100 miles. You actually know a spec on this thing, dude? Seriously? 165 pounds. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I pushed the pedal to the floor while I was, while I had the spring in place, just to mess around a little bit to see how much tension it had. And yeah, that thing wanted to break my hand, so it wanted to crush my hand, man. It's definitely got some torque in it. Not something I'd want to get, I wouldn't want to get caught with that if I was trapped under the dash, that's for sure. So that was not someplace I'd want to be. But guys, I wanted to give a little update on this car. Like I said, I haven't done much on it. I'm going to try to get some more video of it as we get it back together, and hopefully a video of this thing being road tested would be phenomenal. That's probably going to be in the coming weeks, so we'll see how that plays out. But my battery's dying, and it's time to go, guys. So have a good night. See you later.